I recognize the Honourable Member for St. Christopher 2.
Madam Speaker, I rise on this occasion to lend my voice, and with it, Madam Speaker, the support to the Appropriation 2023 bill tabled by the Honourable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance in this Honourable House. And of course, to take the opportunity, Madam Speaker, to speak on what is contained in the estimates as it relates to the tourism industry. Now, permit me, Madam Speaker, to remind this Honourable House, and of course those persons under the sound of my voice, that the ministry is in fact called the Ministry of Tourism, International Transport, Civil Aviation, Maritime, and Labour and Employment. And as such, Madam Speaker, during my address, I will be speaking on the initiatives of this administration as it relates not only to tourism, but to international transport, the other agencies such as civil aviation and maritime, and of course, what this administration intends to do in the Ministry of Labour and Employment. And I will also outline the broad trajectory for the ministries that I have the responsibility to lead. And so, Madam Speaker, we all know the world as we knew it drastically changed before our eyes over the last 2 years. The unimaginable and life-changing effects of the COVID-19 pandemic resulted in the paralysis of the tourism industry. This, of course, led to widespread cross-sector layoffs that particularly affected the hotels and service providers industries. So we saw layoffs at the Marriott, the St. Kitts Marriott Resort, and some of the other hotels. This contributed significantly to the increase in our unemployment rates. Our hotel workers were affected, our taxi operators. I've spoken to single mothers who relied solely on the industry, our tour operators, hair braiders down in the mall, those who provide massages, the restaurant workers, all experienced the direct rippling effects of the disruption of their lives resulting from the pandemic. Madam Speaker, this lucidly depicts the fickleness of the tourism industry and the far-reaching effects of its paralysis. However, it also shows the importance of the industry as one of the main economic drivers in the country. In fact, the sector represents over 25% of the workforce. Madam Speaker, the sector, and that is the tourism sector, has historically been and continues to be, thank you very much. The tourism sector, Madam Speaker, has been and continues to be, that is outside of the CBI program, one of the largest drivers of the annual GDP in our federation. The sector accounts for approximately 40% of the GDP and is the largest source of direct and indirect employment for our people. As such, Madam Speaker, it is clear why the pandemic had that effect on our people. It was indeed a traumatic period for our people, whose livelihoods were changed as a result of the pandemic. Now, to compound this issue, the issue that we faced during the pandemic, the former administration sought to play politics with the lives of our citizens. They did this with the unwarranted restrictions that were void of scientific basis. In fact, the learned Minister of Finance, our Prime Minister, spoke of it yesterday, and so I won't belabor the point, but he said that the statistics showed that there was no need to keep the restrictions in place. I won't belabor it. Like I said, it is a new day, and it is in fact a better way with this administration. And so, Madam Speaker, our focus really is in the tourism industry on the recovery and the re-emergence of the sector. We think this will stabilize our economy and in effect impact the lives of our citizens here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. So, as outlined yesterday by the Learned Minister of Finance, the Ministry of Tourism has been allocated some $27 million for recurring expenditure and $17.6 million for capital projects. Now, this shows from the budget last year an overall increase of 23.4%, which we think, Madam Speaker, solidifies this government's position to improve the offerings of our tourism product. And in spite of what is being said in terms of the gloomy outlook of the world, our government we have a positive outlook for the recovery of the economy. Now, when we came into office in August, my ministry, that is the Ministry of Tourism, was innovatively reconstructed to provide a comprehensive and calculated approach to the synergizing of these very important sister agencies that drive a major part of the economic development. So, under my ministry, we have agencies such as UDC, Frigate Bay Corporation, SCASPA, and the Departments of Maritime and Civil Aviation. This construction, Madam Speaker, of the ministries exhibits the intent with which this government is making decisions, as every unit is reliant upon the other to adequately and effectively function. So, make no mistake, whilst the previous administration lacked the foresight and the thought to effectively construct their ministries, this government has been purposeful and visionary in the way it constructs these ministries to ensure there is valued output and to further maximize the use of resources. Now, as it is because, Madam Speaker, I am pleased as a result of the reconstruction of the ministries, I am pleased to present to this Honourable House and to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, of course, how we intend to spend the monies allocated in these ministries to benefit the families of the Federation. Permit me, Madam Speaker, to remind this Honourable House that the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party is the party of tourism. It is the party of economic development. It is the party that championed the diversification of our economy through tourism and services. Therefore, we are best suited at this time to thrust our country into recovery mode post-pandemic. I want to remind this Honourable House, I think it was in 2004 when we closed the sugar industry. The Prime Minister at the time, who is our Minister of Economic and I think Investment, took the decision to close the sugar industry, and we were forced as a country at that time to diversify the economy. Tourism came up as one of the main sectors. Means tourism has been just, here in St. Kitts, been around just for about 20 years. We are at that point again, Madam Speaker. After the pandemic, it showed clearly how fragile the sector was. But we are up for the task here with this government. Nearly every significant tourism development project over the last 50 years has the Labour stamp on it. This is unquestionable. The following tourism projects and private sector enterprises will be recognizable to most of our audience today, but many of you may not be aware of the Labour Party's role in making them possible. Madam Speaker, I speak of the Park Hyatt Resort on the label. I speak of the Royal St. Kitts Hotel on the label, the St. Kitts Marriott and Royal Casino on the label, Marriott Vacation Club, again, Madam Speaker, on the label, Marriott Residences, Sugar Bay, Silver Reef, Royal St. Kitts Golf Course, the Frigate Bay Strip, Kitishan Hill, Ramada, Christoph Harbour, Artless Plantation Inn as it then was, Fairview Inn, all of these under label. Even the introduction of tour excursions, Madam Speaker, like the Scenic Railway, Sky Safaris, those two were as a result of initiatives under the Labour administration. Some of you may not remember that it wasn't too long ago in 2008 that the first call during the summer from a cruise line took place on the label. Now, I don't mean to give a history lesson. I simply want to make the point, Madam Speaker, that the Labour Party has been known for tourism. We have been known for making major contributions to the tourism sector. Now, after just 4 months of being in office, we have already started again. Before I go into what we intend to do, there was a 7-year period when we were not in office. All that I mentioned happened under the Labour administration. During that 7-year period, not one new initiative. Not one new. All that I mentioned would have happened under a Labour-led administration. That is why I feel confident in saying, Madam Speaker, that Labour Party is the party for tourism. We are full speed ahead. We've just been in office for 4 months and we are at it again. Our government's tourism development strategy continues to be based on leveraging the genuine welcoming attitude of our people, the richness of our heritage, the uniqueness of our natural and historical assets in ways that excite potential visitors. This is in essence, Madam Speaker, what the member for number 9 spoke about. It is the essence of the new campaign launched by the ministry and the authority earlier, immediately after we came into office, 1st September thereabout, when we launched the Venture Deeper campaign. The primary target of our marketing efforts is for the more discerning visitor who is best suited to enjoy engaging with our people, engaging our culture, and even our environment. We are more interested in the ministry in increasing the value of the per capita spend of our visitors than in counting the number of arrivals. Because it is this government's intention, Madam Speaker, to ensure there is a trickle-down effect from our tourism efforts that benefits our citizens. We must again do all we can do to increase the attraction of high-spending visitors per capita, because as I said earlier, it is our intention to ensure that the money trickles down. So earlier this month, or during the season, I think we had 3 unscheduled calls, and I'll get to how this administration will help with the cruise tourism. But earlier this season, we had 3 unscheduled calls. And like I said, we want to make sure that we attract the visitor who is going to spend, high-spending visitors. Whilst we want to see the numbers, we also want to increase our spend per capita. And so the 3 calls I think we had were from 3 high-end, and they were unscheduled, We hosted additional unscheduled calls from 3 luxury vessels. The Star Pride, who brought 209 passengers, Evrima, who brought 293 passengers, and Star Pride, who brought 159 passengers. Madam Speaker, we, in terms of what our plans are, we do appreciate that there is an issue with airlift. We will have to again take a proactive approach to building and supporting international airlift infrastructure so that our visitors and nationals alike can move more easily between our source markets and our destinations. Now, I think it was the member from Nevis 9 who spoke this morning about tapping into the source markets, the untraditional source markets. I suspect from where we're located geographically, our biggest source market is the US. The Ministry of Tourism, along with the Tourism Authority, we see the need to tap into the untraditional source markets. So I think the member from Nevis, number 9, spoke about visitors from the Middle East, visitors from Dubai. He mentioned we have a number of citizens there who have never ventured here. I was there with the Honorable Prime Minister, and we were amazed that a number of our citizens had not even visited here. We launched and we shared the Venture Deeper campaign with them, and they were intrigued. There was the interest definitely is there, and I think the ministry, that is a market that the ministry will tap into. In addition to that, we have started in tapping into the UK market. The biggest source market, like I said, is the US, then the regional markets, that is the islands in the region, and the Canadian markets. We are now tapping into the UK market. In fact, we traveled, I think it was 3 weeks ago, with the Nevis Tourism Authority to the UK to present our destination to the people in the United Kingdom, particularly those in London and in Kent and in Surrey, where British Airways bring passengers from. We sold the destination to them, Madam Speaker, and the interest is there. What is important, though, is that for us to be a viable destination, we will have to consider tapping into the untraditional markets. So that brings us to the issue of airlift. We will therefore need to make sure that persons can access the destination easily. The availability of direct international airline services to major international airport hubs also helps to create the confidence not only in our cruise sector, but in our stayover industry. They can relocate their passengers or their crew in an emergency or when necessary. The cost of airline tickets is insurmountable. That has been the debate in social media for a while. We understand the cries of even our nationals who have a difficult time returning home, especially at this time of the year, due to the expensive airfares. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, this is so because our destination is currently not meeting the demand for the airline seats into the Federation. So, as your Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation, I understand how necessary it is to rebuild airlift capacity, which moved backwards under the previous administration. Today, I am happy to report that we have entered into several advanced discussions for additional airlift support into the Federation, which would realize routes from JetBlue and United Airlines commencing in the second quarter of 2023. We will also tackle, Madam Speaker, the issue of interregional travel by partnering with LIATS and Inter-Caribbean Airlines to ensure that our brothers and sisters in the diaspora and in the region can access the destination and enjoy the true Kitishan experience. And so we're working. We went to the financial secretary, and the allocation of $8 million, as you see in the estimates, which is an increase of $4.1 million, or 105% for airlift support in 2023, is included in the capital expenditure for the ministry. What this does, Madam Speaker, is allows us to secure MRGs, which is the minimum rate guarantees for these airlines to add syndicate to their routes. Your government understands the need for this type of investment to ensure that our destination, like I said earlier, is accessible and we're able to compete with other destinations. While this is projected, Madam Speaker, to increase visitors to our island, our citizens as well as our nationals abroad will also be able to enjoy the reduction in airfares and be able to travel back home when they wish to. And so I am happy. I mean, we had to fight hard, but I'm happy to report that we were able to secure these MRGs. Madam Speaker, permit me, however, to explain one of the main reasons why our destination became unpopular, not only among travelers, but the airlines. This downward slide in capacity was caused by the unscientific and overcautious requirements of the COVID-19 testing for all arriving passengers. So I'm sure you heard when the Honorable Minister of Finance spoke yesterday, said he had the scientific data which indicated that we could have opened our borders. We could have lifted the restrictions. We chose not to. And we chose not to for political reasons. There was one time, there was a pending election, and there's a thought that we were trying to keep people out. And so we kept the borders closed. We refused to lift the restrictions for people's personal agendas. That impacted the tourism sector. The sector, like I said earlier, that provides food on people's table. The sector that keeps the light on in people's house. A sector that pays the bills for a lot of single mothers and fathers. It is clear that the previous administration did not care. And so that resulted, as I said, in a downward sliding capacity, and persons began to choose other destinations. Now, in addition to that, and if I could find something, Madam Speaker, when we came into office, the first thing we did in the ministry was we embarked on an assessment of what was happening in the industry. Now, maybe persons think, maybe the minister is overdoing it, but permit me just to read something from the reports we got. And this is from cruise executives. The cruise line relationships at the senior industry and government levels certainly says the cruise line relationships at the senior industry and government levels, certainly with some of our largest customers, are not where it should be. Our senior industry executive recently reflected that although cruising is barely operating in syndicates, the relationships with the senior government suck. The feeling is that the former Prime Minister and the health officials, that is the COVID-19 task force, had no genuine interest in supporting the industry during its time of need. And more importantly, the industry felt snubbed and to some extent left out in the cold. The report goes on to say, Madam Speaker, they felt snubbed and to some extent left out in the cold by the general refusal, especially at the Prime Minister's level, to accept telephone and video requests from senior industry executives. Wow. Meanwhile, Mayor Motley in Barbados and Silvera Jacobs in St. Martin, more so the former than the latter, became the darlings of the industry. This became the darlings of the industry for the support they personally and their countries gave the industry during the pandemic. They went on to say to our ministry that there is work that needs to be done at the senior executive levels of the industry to demonstrate that the leadership of the country genuinely values the cruise industry, will support the industry, and will engage when requested to do so. Now, I don't know, Madam Speaker, if you recall when we held our first press conference and we were given updates as to what was happening in the ministries, we indicated that we were working feverishly to restore broken relations with our international partners. The estimates have allocated for us to, we've sent teams, different teams, up to the US to meet with the senior cruise executives. In fact, I think it was about a month ago, they came in and met with the Prime Minister, the Honorable Minister of Finance, forgive me. And so we've been working. So when you see the accolades being bestowed upon us as a country, it is clearly as a result of work put in. So when they're saying, oh, we always on plane, we always away, I keep saying there's no way we can stay in our little corners of the world and get things done. It does not work that way. People kept saying we were missing in action. But like I said, we have been working, we've been putting in the work. I just wanted to comment on why the issues with airlift and cruise tourism, the issues are where they are. So as I said, holding to the protocol for longer than any of our competitors caused us a fall-off in demand for the destination. Now, a fall-off in demand for the destination would affect airlift. So bad decisions affected the industry drastically. When we decide to say we're lifting the protocols, people are not going to wait to see they're going to book vacations elsewhere. When they're not sure as to what the protocols are, they're going to move on. And that is what was happening with our destination. Additionally, just how we treated people, as the report says, just how you treat people in time of need. And they have not gotten over it. At a recent conference, they said it publicly in Santo Domingo at the FCCA conference. As the young people said, they're still in their feelings. But we are working, Madam Speaker, on repair. And so there's a trickling effect. You treat people badly, people move on, it affects our people. People who rely on the industry for their bread and butter. Some people, that's all they do. And so, Madam Speaker, I'm just, reinforcing the point, as fickle as the industry is. The industry is still significantly important. Now, research indicates that a strong partnership between the destination marketing organization and key stakeholders, and before I go there, if you look at the estimates, you would see monies allocated in the budget for marketing, vigorous marketing of the destination. And this is so because we are guided by the research. The research shows that a strong partnership between the destination marketing organization and key stakeholders is the key driver of a destination's marketing success. To that end, Madam Speaker, the government, through the Ministry of Finance, is focusing on providing a more professional platform from which our hotels, our restaurants, and various tourism-related businesses can launch their individual marketing and promotional efforts. It is our intention to recreate greater levels of collaboration and partnership between our tourism authority, which is the marketing arm in tourism, and the private sector. Now, what this does, Madam Speaker, is that it ensures that financial costs involved are shared. When we partner and collaborate, we share costs. That means savings for the stakeholders in the industry and the persons who work in the sector. So, the collaboration ensures that financial costs involved are shared and that St. Kitts and Nevis, of course, remains globally competitive as a destination for visitors and tourism-related real investment. It is vital that we soon experience a drastic increase in joint marketing initiatives, not only with our local partners, but with our international trade partners, such as British Airways, American Airlines, and various tour operators. Madam Speaker, until these private partnerships are solidified, we will continue to work to ensure that sufficient amounts are allocated in the budgets to ensure the success of the industry. Now, marketing is extremely important when it comes to the tourism sector. Since we've been in office, mind you, from January to when we got in office in August, not much was happening. In fact, the protocols were still in place. We got in, the first thing the government did was lift the restrictions. And like I said, we embarked on an assessment as to what was happening in the industry. We thought it was prudent to launch an aggressive marketing campaign. Out of that, Madam Speaker, and what we marketed is the Venture Deeper campaign. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the campaign by now. If you're not, you can go to our Facebook, any of our social media platforms, and familiarize yourself with the campaign. We are all ambassadors for our country. But what the campaign has resulted in, along with the lifting of the restrictions, is the marketing and public relations in relation to the destination. People are impressed with the destination. We've since won the Best Hike Award. We've won the Best Dive Award. And the big thing that the Minister and Honorable Prime Minister was speaking of is that we've won Destination of the Year. What that shows, Madam Speaker, is that, and that cannot be attributable to anything done during the first part of the year. Nothing was happening. We came in, we assessed the industry, we launched a vigorous campaign, we started sending teams into the source markets, we sent teams into Canada, we sent teams into the UK, we sent teams into the US. People are becoming familiar with the destination. Now that is also following the pent-up demand after being locked down for so long.
Remember we were traveling, we saw another country on a magazine and we said we put in.
Right. The Honorable Member for number 3 was reminding me that we are going to an initiative in marketing the destination. And so monies have been allocated in the budget for that. That goes a long way. So people might see it and say, oh, all that money for marketing. But marketing does a lot in tourism. Absolutely, in comparison to the return. Now, Madam Speaker, the consumer that has evolved, as I was saying earlier, from the pandemic, is one that desires a more experiential travel. And to address the shift, so the travel trends are showing, following the pandemic, visitors are looking for more experiential experiences where they can immerse themselves into a destination. We've spent on the research, so monies are allocated for that, for the research, for compiling of statistics, and I will speak some more about that. But from the research we've gotten, the results from the research shows that the visitors are desiring a more experiential experience. And to address the shift in consumer behavior as a result of the economic downturn, the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, like I said earlier, launched the Venture Deeper campaign. Of course, we're doing this by utilizing new technology and ensuring that we have an effective e-market strategy. The people we are targeting are on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're on Facebook. They're not going to take up barely know a magazine to determine where you want to vacation. And so you would see allocations in the budget for the e-marketing, for research, Madam Speaker, and of course, as I said earlier, the returns are great. A properly documented e-marketing strategy is available and has been prepared with the help of one of our global tourism market research company called Tambourine. This modernizing branding is founded on the premise that we must appeal to the travel of today to ensure that our destination remains marketable. So we've brought in influencers. In fact, we're utilizing our own influencers to sell the destination. If you're following us, you would see Atiba selling his mother's food as the best food in the country. Whether it's accurate or not, you would see Judah, who sells, his focus is farm to table experience. These are the things that make our destination different to the others, and we have to remain competitive. Now, Madam Speaker, we understand the impact and the need for global marketing, and therefore we have earmarked 18.1 million for strategic marketing around the world. Due to highly competitive nature of the tourism industry and the continuing impact created by the recent pandemic, related fall-off in arrivals and investment, the St. Kitts Tourism Authority and its industry partners are doing everything possible to maintain a competitive edge in the destination. For our destination, forgive me. In this regard, we at Esquetier and the ministry, we have succeeded in the implementation of a full bliss global marketing strategy. So just last month, we launched 75 billboard placements in Manhattan, and in addition, we are connected to TV, social media, and other digital channels to increase visibility of the destination, which is critical in the markets. We are investing in the industry. Investing in the industry means returns for our people, jobs for, as the Prime Minister, the learned Prime Minister said yesterday, the more trips, the more ships. The more trips, the more stayovers. The more trips, more investment into the industry. We want to get more brand hotels. We need to get, a lot more to increase the capacity, and that is what we're working towards. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, forgive me, our tourism-related marketing efforts in 2023 will be geared towards strengthening our ability to be globally competitive. So all the monies, that 18.1 million, is to ensure that we remain competitive. To be successful, Our small but proud nation must continue to join hands internally with our international partners to achieve more with less. As a country and destination, we must continue to punch above our weight in a challenging marketplace. It requires us to perform at our best. Every dollar spent must be carefully targeted. Every decision made must be in tandem with our strategy for competitiveness. On the home front, we must continue to build our service standards to international levels without losing, of course, the authenticity of our island-style culture and the quality of our natural environment. As a matter of fact, that is what sells us. Our natural environment, our rainforest, the fact that the destination is untouched. I like to say the destination is the product. Or the product, the tourism product, is the destination. So, we've focused a lot on sustainable tourism and sustainable practices. You would see hotels or local stakeholders. Our government, of course, has made available concessions that are consistent with our sustainable objectives. So Sunset Reef, Belmont Farm, where you can actually get the farm-to-table experience, the ocean-to-table experience. Even with Judah, I think his restaurant is on the bypass. He's also one of our stakeholders in the industry. And we continue as a ministry to invest in them. Now, we often hear the term heads in beds. And that is exactly what we will do with the $18 million allocated to us when we improve the issues with airlift. The objective is to get more heads in the beds at the hotels. The spin-off from this investment will bolster our hotel industry that has been functioning under capacity for quite some time. You see, Madam Speaker, with increased capacity in the hotels, it means increased employment for our citizens. Tourism is very vital to our economic sustenance and must be led by a serious administration who understands the benefits to the people. And I outlined earlier all the initiatives, major projects in tourism led under the Labour-led administration. And we are here again to make things happen. I will continue to work. I will continue to ensure that we invest, because the more visitors we have is the more work for the taxi operators, the more work for hair braiders, more work for beach vendors, more work for excursion and tour operators. I'm happy to report that since we've been in office, stay-over arrivals are steadily rebounding. For the winter season, all legacy carriers, and when I say winter season, I mean December into the winter season, we will have all our legacy carriers returning. That is American Airlines, Delta, British Airways, Air Canada, United, and they will be functioning on normal schedules. These include weekly flights from, like I said, Air Canada, American Airlines out of Charlotte, JFK, Delta and Atlanta, Delta from Atlanta, United from Newark on Saturdays, American Airlines, of course, from Miami, and even the New York flight. What does this mean, Madam Speaker? It means more visitors into the destination. It means more money for our people. So, Madam Speaker, we are spending the money allocated to us to ensure that our citizens can make a living. It is that simple. Permit me to speak a little on cruise tourism. While airlift is crucial, and having outlined some of our plans for this budget cycle for its continued improvement, the rebound of the cruise industry is also critically are important. Despite the notable challenges over the years, St. Kitts' recovery today in tourism industry is steadily gaining momentum. If you're paying attention, you'd see sometimes in one day there are 4 ships in port. I think at one point in time we had 5. 2 at Pier 1, 2 at Pier 2, and 1 at Carambola. No. I am amazed at our ability to have 4 ships berthed at our ports. And of course, that is as a result of the visionary leadership of the Labour administration. Now, like I said, tourism industry is steadily regaining momentum, and I forgot to mention that the Caribbean Journal has called us the buzziest destination. No, the Prime Minister did mention it yesterday, but I think we are indeed the buzziest destination, and I'm the buzziest minister. In addition, Madam Speaker, the revamping of the industry under this new leadership has realized other recent accolades, like I mentioned earlier, the Caribbean leading dive destination, Portholes Magazine's Cruise Port of the Year, that's another accolade, the Caribbean's hiking destination, the Silver Magellan Award winner, that is our destination for the Caribbean's overall adventure destination, has made the top 10 Reader's Choice list for the Condé Nast Affair and Travel Courier. All of this as a result of aggressive marketing, whether it's on social media or sending our teams out into the source markets. We're being recognized, and that can only result in increased capacity, and that too results in increased benefits for our people. It is evident, Madam Speaker, that our recent efforts of recovery and re-emergence through our recently launched brand campaign and our destination identity has unveiled indicators which suggest that St. Kitts is a destination of intrigue to travelers, and therefore the ministry is prepared to engage all stakeholders on every front and utilize necessary resources as we strengthen our presence globally and regionally. The 2021-2022 cruise season, Madam Speaker, saw our destination welcoming 399,571 passengers in total. Of course, there were the restrictions in place, bad decisions. I was amazed that some destinations were not even closed. I don't know the science, but some destinations like St. Thomas, Santo Domingo, they remained open. If we were guided by the science and we remained closed, the reality is we stayed closed longer than we needed to. And this resulted in welcoming only 399,571 passengers in total. Vast understatement to the previous years and the projections for that year. Now, prior to that, we were seeing 1 million passengers. Compare that to 399 and the effect it would have on our people. People lost their buses. Some people couldn't pay for their homes. Some people couldn't feed their children. Some people couldn't keep the lights on. Our people suffered. It was a traumatic period for our people. Lack, and for me it boils right down to lack of proper leadership. To date, we have welcomed this season so far 126, which is a significant improvement when compared to 2021-2022, when at this time we would have welcomed only 60,000, and almost 120% increase this time. Now, if you've looked at our itinerary that is published, you would see that for this season, we are, if we have the calls as scheduled, we're close again to the 1 million mark. So based on the number of calls for the season, the figure I gave you, that I just mentioned, is just from the, remember the season just started. So for the entire season, it is anticipated, based on the number of calls that we're getting, we would reach almost the 1 million mark. And remember I said earlier, we are having unscheduled calls. We've had so far 3 unscheduled calls, and I'm hopeful that with the work being put in, the aggressive marketing campaign, that we will get additional calls that would allow us to surpass the 1 million passenger mark. We have welcomed, Madam Speaker, so far 8 of our 11 scheduled inaugural calls, meaning calls that were never made to the destination. That is indicative of work being done. 8 of the 11, and perhaps, who knows, Madam Speaker, we may very well get more inaugural calls than the 11 scheduled. A very proud moment for us as a destination was the welcoming of the current largest cruise vessel in November, 24, the Wonder of the Seas. Unfortunately, I wasn't here, but that is as a result of hard work as well. So as we said earlier, Madam Speaker, St. Kitts is the busiest destination. And that is because we are, and the word has gotten around, that we are now open for business. So Madam Speaker, it's no surprise that we have recently hosted several, like I said, unscheduled calls, not from regular ships, but luxury vessels, which means more spending, passengers who spend more. Our strategy moving forward is to build on the current momentum by increasing destination awareness, building on our human capacity, and diversifying our product and service offerings. So this $26 million I think we have allocated, that little bit of money is going to do all of this. So there's been much talk about, and I'll just leave that in terms of travel and how it's impacting the increase in visitors to the destination. In terms of the current capital projects, the allocation is some 17.6 million. The ministry recognizes the indispensable need to continuously develop and improve major tourist sites and attractions around the island. Thus, this remains a priority for us in the ministry as we showcase our cultural diversity to the world, which is the major asset, as I said, in the newly launched brand campaign. Having re-established the critical partnership with CARICOM Development Fund, the South Friarsby Beach Enhancement Project will enter into its second phase in 2023. And forgive me, that's South Frigaby. No, that's the Frigaby project. So if you're paying attention, you would see some work was going on there, and we intend during this budget cycle to complete the work there. This will realize the completion of the project. We will have a boardwalk connected to various outlets, external parking for visitors, a reception and information center, police outposts, toilet blocks with accommodations for specially abled, modern sewage disposal systems, and that has been the holdup of the project, and enhanced landscaping, having our local craft vendor stalls, turtle-friendly lighting, and exit structure. So once that is completed, all of this you would see on the strip. And so we've allocated for that project on the strip some monies. to complete the project. And of course, this is in collaboration with the CARICOM Development Fund, who has provided some grants. Now, over the past years, we have experienced severe erosion to the Frigate Bay and South Friars beaches, resulting in a large portion of the beach now being fully submerged under the water. So if you've been to Friars Bay, where there was shipwreck and there was some sand between the bar and just before you enter the ocean, if you go there now, you would see that no longer applies. In fact, the water comes right up. There's no sand. The water comes right up to the shipwreck bar. This is a major threat to the successful operation of the many beach bars and restaurants in the area. So, phase 2 of the project will employ preservation and restoration measures to our beaches to protect the interests of the businesses and those employed. The ministry remains focused as well on black rocks, which is one of the prescribed areas in the Act, which is a staple in our unique tourist offerings, and its preservation and upgrade is priority for us. Through successful collaboration with the Whitegate Development Corporation, the Black Rocks Enhancement Project saw the commissioning of the iconic viewing platform and the addition of restrooms, fully fenced grounds, and the repainting of quaint chatter-style vendor booths. This cycle, we intend to maintain and improve the grounds and the environs, as it is not only serviced by our visitors, but it also attracts a large number of citizens to its wholesome and family nature. So some of the monies allocated would be to keep Black Rocks as well. Madam Speaker, the mentioned capital projects will not only improve the tourism product offerings, but also provides a significant increase in job opportunities and creation for our citizens, many of whom remained unemployed during the pandemic. This will bring forth much needed relief in the employment sector. In addition to this, I am sure, Madam Speaker, all of us following are now familiar with the initiatives of the government as it relates to the sector and COVID relief. I think it was about 2 weeks ago, we launched the COVID relief, what is it called, Mr. Prime Minister? The COVID Relief Fund? Yes. Which is a low interest rate loan out of the development bank, which would benefit our small to medium-sized business owners, including our taxi operators, our tour operators, who will benefit from that. We also paid an honorarium to the frontline workers in the industry, those at SCASPA, those at UDC, those at the airport, along with the other persons who would have benefited. The persons in this industry would have benefited as well from the honorarium paid. The ministry has also contemplated, Madam Speaker, the provision of some social, some maybe psychological programs. We find that a number of our stakeholders continue to be laboring under the effects of the pandemic. They're depressed, and we don't know how long we're going to be in this state for. And so we have allocated some monies to provide for some support for our stakeholders in that regard. This, Madam Speaker, will of course bring forth much needed relief for the employment sector. Now, as the Minister of Labour and Employment, if I can just chime in, I will continue as well to create employment opportunities to restore the stability within the sector. Before I go into Labour, the St. Kitts Music Festival, which is a feature of the tourism industry, 26 years ago, the Labour administration again had the vision to introduce a product that would encourage visitors to our destination. Today, the St. Kitts Music Festival is a world-class event anticipated by many around the world. Plans are already afoot for the 25th anniversary for the St. Kitts Music Festival in 2023. And so you would see in the estimates an additional allocation of $500,000 to support the music festival, which we know as a matter of fact, would bring visitors to the destination. Over the years, the festival has grown from modest to a truly world-renowned event, attracting music lovers from around the world. One of the strategic objectives of the festival involves the empowerment of local artists and local businesses who are employed as micro-enterprises, often run and operated by young business owners to manage various aspects of the event. Over the last few years, the festival has maintained its high-quality production, which is a testament of the talent that abounds here in our country, and we intend to partner with the Ministry of the Creative Economy to push our local artists. Allow me, Madam Speaker, to also mention one of the initiatives that the ministry is undertaking as is the 40th anniversary of our independence, as a marketing initiative to get our people and, of course, other visitors to return. Of course, this would be done in collaboration with the Prime Minister's ministry, but we have already started because in travel, people don't wait until the week to decide that they're going to travel. People plan 6 months in advance, and so we've already started. In fact, when we were in the UK, the question came from one of the persons in the press, what is St. Kitts doing to get visitors to return for the 40th anniversary of our independence? And so, over the last few years, we've, like I said, continued to focus on the festival as an events-based, for regional travel, it's more events-based. And so most of the people who come for the festival are usually from the region and our returning visitors. We are therefore satisfied as a ministry to provide opportunities, like I said, for this caliber of people and our citizens, and to pledge our continued support in that aspect. We anticipate one of the largest visitor influx for the 25th celebration of the festival, with the on-stream of additional airlift from key feeder areas such as New York and Fort Lauderdale. Increased airlift generates massive economic benefits to our local hotels and our local businesses and industries, and will continue to drive the overall recovery in the tourism industry. Permit me, Madam Speaker, just to speak a little on the cross-ministerial collaboration. I know the Honourable Member from number 4 would have spoken about agriculture and medical, and the mover of the bill yesterday mentioned medical agritourism, and I think it's medicinal cannabis. I see you looking at the clock, Madam Speaker. Okay. I'm wrapping up, so if I could crave your if I could crave your indulgence for a few more minutes, just to outline, just to outline the initiatives and how we intend to spend the people's money allocated to our ministry. So we intend to collaborate with the Ministry of Agriculture, but particularly, and this is particularly at the Eco Park. Now, if you look at the estimates, you would see an increase in the figure for salaries. We are proud to report that the monies are allocated to, I think, convert those workers at the Eco Park from the STEP program to, is it auxiliary workers? So they're going to be made, I think it's permanent. And so that is, I think, is about 700 and something thousand that's allocated for the increase in salaries. And the Ministry of Agriculture is going to collaborate with us to build back the Eco Park, possibly with the introduction of cannabis, growing it there, and selling it as a product and niche market to our visitors on the scenic railway stop. Over the last few years after the transition of the management from the Republic of China on Taiwan to the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, the quality of the park from 2018, not under our watch, has diminished tremendously. In fact, Madam Speaker, I was saddened when I walked there with the Honourable Member from number 4 and I saw how overgrown it was. We agreed that we will enter into a memorandum of understanding for the management of the park, where the Ministry of Tourism would be responsible for the workers, the administrative aspect, and the Ministry of Agriculture would be responsible for the actual farming and bringing the park back to the quality it was before. The total neglect of the park consequently resulted to its dilapidation. It's unfortunate, but we are hopeful, and so funds are allocated in both budgets, in the estimates for agriculture and tourism, for the upkeep of the park. It is therefore a commitment to provide restoration work that would revive the life of the Eco Park through partnership with the Ministry of Agriculture. We will strengthen this partnership to maximize resources while providing the expertise required to improve the state of the Eco Park. Now, CBI, in terms of cross-ministerial collaboration, we are hoping, we don't have any monies allocated, so I'm hoping somebody else has it in their estimates that would allow us to collaborate, but we see the opportunity to, as the Honourable Member from number 9 said this morning, to tap into the untraditional source markets. And there definitely was the interest in the Middle East. There's the interest in the African market. Outside of the interest in tourism, there can be the collaboration for partnership in investment. And so we can see more 5-star hotels coming here from our collaboration with the ministries. We can see I'm hoping for the revitalization of Central Bastia, the good people of Central Bastia, through the Urban Development Corporation.
We have budget for interministerial collaboration.
Oh, that is absolutely good news. And so I'm hopeful, Madam Speaker, that we can have some cross-ministerial collaboration. I heard the mover of the bill yesterday speak about improvements to the health sector, and whilst that is not related to the ministry, it concerns the good people of Central Bastia. For all of us, for some reason or the other, those of us in Central Bastia, and I see a number of them in the gallery, supporting as usual, we can agree that the health center offers so many services and is in need of an upgrade. I remember on the campaign trail, we gave our commitments within this 5 years to upgrade the health center. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I will embark on a collaborative effort, not as the minister, but as the representative for Central Bastia, St. Christopher 2, of course led by the Minister of Health, to ensure that during this term, 5-year term, we have a modern health center in constituency number 2. Of course, that means more investment, getting people to come and invest. Sports tourism, also collaborating with the Ministry of Sports as the...
We have identified the land.
Okay, see that. We are well on our way in Central Bastia. So promises are being, we are keeping our word. So stay tuned. In sports tourism, we intend in the new year, if you look in the estimates, you would see we were allocated additional funds for administrative support in the ministry, and we would have gotten some additional positions. One of them we intend to bring as a sports tourism officer who would be working with the Ministry of Sports. We see CPL and even the 6th, I think it's the 6th experience, golf. About a month ago, I went to a golf tournament hosted by Zeke, and we have an impressive golf course over at Frigate Bay that we have access to. Not only there down in number 6, down in St. Paul's, there's an impressive golf course there. And so we hope to expand our sports tourism agenda, which would result in people coming into the destination. In fact, I met with a cricket group who is bringing here in March of next year over 150 persons, cricketers of course, that would result in expenditure. They're spending money and our people benefiting. Wrapping up. No, I know we're also partnering with the CTO, that's the Caribbean Tourism Organization, to provide the implementation of some policies that would improve and affect the sector positively. We have allocated monies to remain a member of the organization, where we will benefit from policies in risk management, sustainable tourism, community tourism, and more importantly for us, one of the main focal areas is the customer visitor experience training. For us, we think we need to expose our people to more the experience training that would result in good experiences for our visitors to the destination. Another area that we've allocated funding for is the statistics reporting. We find that we don't report properly. This, of course, affects capacity building. And if I think we can as well collaborate with the Ministry of Statistics. I'm not sure if that is what it's called, but the Department of Statistics. And this, of course, will help, Madam Speaker, with capacity building. We will be in a better position, of course, to know where persons are who are interested in the destination, the experiences persons will have when we do our exit surveys. We will know how to plan going forward. And so the monies allocated will be well spent. It will be for the benefit of our people. It will be for the benefit of the stakeholders in the industry. It will be for the benefit of the children in our federation. And so I conclude this evening. Permit me just to mention, Madam Speaker, the Labor Department. If you look at the estimates for that department, the Ministry of Labor and Employment, forgive me, there are no real capital projects. But I've spoken to the Honorable Attorney General, and we have spoken about collaborating on a comprehensive revision of the labor laws. In fact, the COVID pandemic has opened our eyes where a number of our people suffered because our laws are not up to date. And so for me as the minister, the main objective is the revision of the labor laws. And I've spoken to, like I said, the Honorable Attorney General, and we intend to embark on this initiative. The government has already spent monies for workers who would have suffered as a result of the pandemic. So we're committed. The bulk of the monies allocated are for severance payments in the budget, as well as the relocation of the units. If you drive by, you would see there on Neville, up in the village, on the landing. They're not even in a proper building, unfortunately. And so it is as a matter of urgency that we need to have the department relocated, and that is going to be happening as well. Funds have been allocated in the budget if you're to peruse it for the relocation of the ministry. So I conclude my presentation, my maiden presentation this evening. It would be remiss of me if I did not make mention to the strength and resilience of the people in the industry. I am amazed, I continue to be amazed at the taxi drivers, all of the stakeholders. They show up, they're willing to be recertified, they are eager to be a part of the decision-making process. As much as they were down as a result of the impact of the pandemic, our people, Madam Speaker, are resilient. We've rebounded, and I'm hopeful for the recovery and the reemergence of the tourism sector. Permit me, however, just to make mention of the resilience of our women. And I might be a little biased, but it was on that platform of women empowerment that I campaigned. And today, I am pleased that our government has been instrumental and revolutionary in its strategic positioning of women in this government, who continue to assist in the decision-making as it relates to our people. It is the greatest honor, even though I have my two female senators, it's the greatest honor to be the lone elected female member of this parliament and to chart the way for women empowerment in this administration. Your as well, Madam Speaker, is indicative of the government's commitment to ensure that our women have a seat at the table. The evidence is clear, and with all of us in Parliament, including the Senator from Nevis, Latoya Jones, this Labour government has given the signal and has led the way for others to follow. I'm therefore pleased that one of the pillars of which I campaigned on is being realized by our government through the empowerment of women. This, Madam Speaker, paves the way for any young girl to aspire to be a leader in our country. It makes the dream of being a top leader in our country more achievable, more realistic. This new Labour government must therefore, Madam Speaker, be congratulated on the steps it has taken in that regard. And so with that, Madam Speaker, I would wish safe passage of this bill through the Honourable House. May it please you.
Thank you to the Honourable Member for St. Christopher 2.
Madam Speaker, it is now 16¼ minutes before the hour of 9. And I would seek your leave to have this Parliament adjourned until tomorrow in the forenoon at 10, if it so pleases you. I believe that we have been doing one from one side, one from the other side, so I'm hoping that the member from Nevis 11 will join tomorrow. And we hope that he will get the ball rolling tomorrow.
It means we'll start late.
Oh yes, it means we'll start later. So if it pleases you, Madam Speaker, tomorrow at 10 in the forenoon.
Do we have a seconder?
Madam Speaker, I beg to second that motion.
The question is that this House be adjourned until tomorrow at 10 a.m. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. This House stands adjourned until tomorrow, 10 a.m.
The sound of children sing, the peal of church bells ring, a star to guide me.
Buy now or reserve for VAT days and get our lowest interest rates